Hello and welcome. I was sent 2 pens from Narwhal, which I think is now having a name change for Nahvalur. Anyways, this is my first impressions, kind of a more traditional pen review than what I normally do. I think most of the time I just give you my thoughts, more of an emotional glance at how I feel about a pen. But honestly, these pens, while they perform really well and they write really well and they carry a ton of ink, which is super exciting, they feel a little bit generic. They feel like they lack a little personality. And so I can't give you the more emotional review as I often do. Thus, the more traditional review. Here is a size comparison for you. Lamy Safari, which was a little smaller, I was surprised. These pens don't feel bulky, which is really nice. They're a nice size. They feel less bulky than the Lamy, even though clearly they're just a hair larger. So I was sent 2 pens, one in the black and with a medium nib, and the white one has a fine nib. And much to my surprise, which I wasn't expecting, this is a vacuum filler, which is really cool. Vacuum fillers are super nice. They can carry so much ink. There's less moving components than a traditional piston filler, so you just have like a whole body at your disposal. I'm going to use some Sailor Studio ink. Hopefully I have enough in this bottle to eke out a little. And this is what you get on the very first fill without any ink in the feed. So as you can see, if I wanted to get a full fill on this brand new pen, I would need to do it a couple more times, which I'm going to do with the black so we can see how long it takes for a full fill. Very careful. I did not fully submerge it in the ink bottle because, again, this bottle is a little bit low on ink. So I had to do it again, but I think 2 tries is pretty darn good and you get the whole the body almost entirely full. If I really wanted to, I could do it a 3rd time and probably fill it max. So right off the bat, I didn't flush these pens out, which you should do with all your pens. And they write really well. This one is the fine nib, and it feels like I'm writing on a glass surface, which might be really magical for some people. I like a little more feedback. I like to feel like the pen is on the paper, not scratchy. Feedback is different. You can feel like the texture a little bit more. This feels like writing on glass. It is maybe a little smoother than I would like, but it's still really nice and it writes very well and it's quite juicy. This fine nib is pretty fat though. I was surprised. So here's the medium, which has a lot more feedback in comparison. Again, not scratchy. Those are 2 different things. It's still very smooth, but doesn't feel like I'm writing on glass. So overall, I like the feel of this medium nib more. I don't know if that's just an inconsistency with the nibs in general, or all the fines are like writing on glass and all the mediums have more feedback. I honestly don't know. I think the biggest difference between the 2 nibs is how much ink is being put down. Because honestly, the lines are very, very, very similar. I do feel like I chose a wetter ink. And maybe if I had a drier ink in these 2 pens, the fine would feel a little bit more fine. But honestly, to me, it feels more like a medium. It's a stiff steel nib, so you don't get a whole lot of flexibility. I think because this one puts down a little bit more ink, you can see some of the more interesting properties of this Sailor Studio ink. And here's the fine again, just trying to like write differently to see if any sort of font captures the very subtle differences in between these two different sized nibs. And honestly, they're really close. So really, my takeaway is that I think the medium is juicier. And just a little reverse writing, because why not? And some scribble tests. Or as Wasky Squirrel always says, the famous Pierre Gustafsson. Oh my gosh, he's a YouTuber too. Well, let's just pretend that I didn't just mess that up terribly. Gustafsson Pierre. What is your last name, sir? Oh, embarrassing. What kind of pen fan am I? Can't even get the names of the YouTubers. Anyways, that's it. So thank you all for watching. And thank you, Narwhal or Nahvalur, for sending me these pens.